one frozen ZX10R 2011 model. Not only frozen, but no power. Somebody tried to boost it, and now it has no power. Main fuses are good, battery's charged, so something's up. These things need a good battery. You can't be boosting it and running it with a dead battery and letting it run off the stator. It's a fuel injected 32-bit ECU in this thing, and it's very power intensive, and it needs a good full charge. I mean, look at how dinky that battery is. It's like a YTX 12 or something, I think it is. But look at how thin the wires are on this thing. I mean, when you start boosting this thing, you know, with unknown quantities of amperage, you're really risking, you know, frying the electronic bits in here. It's just not good for these modern bikes. Put a battery in it and be done with it. And this one, it got boosted, and now there's no power at all. Maybe the main fuse, I don't know. We're gonna have a look though. I'm not gonna start it because it's like -15. Bad solenoid. You can see the connector's gotten kind of melty here. I'm not sure from what. You can see on the other battery, someone's been trying to weld with their ZX10R. They don't make good welders, ZX10Rs. And if you plug this in, and you turn the key on, and you fiddle with it, you can see it comes on if you hold it. Then when you let it go, so a lot of times if you're looking for problems, you can massage the wiring. See, it's on again. You can massage the wiring with the key on, and then as you're massaging it, if something all of a sudden happens, well, then you know you've found the issue. Looks like they've had a little ouchie on the tank here. Somebody's filled it in. God, that's kind of sketchy, eh? Turn the key off. Got a broken lever. Not sure the history on this bike. Gonna have to talk to the owner, and looks like it's been painted. Not sure what's up with the paint. God. It's got a VIN on it though. And the VIN that's stamped in the frame looks factory, so yeah, I'm always suspicious of sport bikes and their origins after they leave the factory, you know. They get stolen like you wouldn't believe, sport bikes. So if you got a sport bike, my advice to you, get a good chain, one of those kryptonite heavy duty Superman chain sort of things, you know, like chain it up to a pole or chain it up to something, because these things are so light, you know. A couple guys, what they'll do is they'll lift it up and they'll just slide it into the back of a pickup truck, and they don't care whether it scratches it or breaks stuff. I mean, they're stealing it, right? So yeah, two guys just huff this right into a truck, slick as can be, and takes no time at all, and away your bike goes. So get a good chain, good lock for it, you know, do the reviews, see what a good lock is, and chain up the front wheel to something. I don't like those little disc locks because you forget they're there, even with that little twiddly cord thing that goes up to the bar. You know, you just forget it's there, and then you end up wrecking your fork and your disc, and makes a mess of things. So, but the chain is pretty obvious. I mean, you're not going to forget the chain. So get a chain, folks. Keep your sport bike for a little longer. These get stolen like crazy. But anyways, that's the issue. Bad solenoid, bad connections. I replaced these screws. I tapped out the holes. Somebody had jammed in Imperial Imperial bolts in there, I think. And I managed to get the nice short metric ones back in, so you can see on this one someone's been trying to weld with this battery too. So I'm not sure what the story is with trying to weld with this ZX10R. There we go. Got a old solenoid out. Got a new solenoid in. Well, new to me solenoid. I think it's off a ZX14 or something. And that's the way it should work every time. There we go. Perfect. 2011 ZX10R. Why you shouldn't boost modern motorcycles. It probably goes without saying, but a lot of the chargers that you get that are meant for automotive applications are very unsuitable for these modern motorcycles. The primary reason is that, one, they're bristling with electronics. You have all kinds of stuff in here that is susceptible to spikes in voltage. And so when you clamp on a 2 amp or even a 10 amp charger onto these things, you're running the risk of upsetting the 32-bit ECU, all the peripheral little doodads on here. There's computers for all kinds of things, like in the quad world, Skidoo world, electronic power steering modules. Man, these days there's a module for everything, and this is particularly prevalent on automobiles, but on motorcycles especially. The reason is because they use a small battery. Some is a little YTX12-BS, it's called Yuasa battery, and they're very small capacity batteries. You pack a hell of a wallop when they're in good shape, sitting at 12.4 volts, new out of the box, and they're very good, but they diminish quite quickly, and if it's anything short of perfect, it doesn't run all the systems properly. It doesn't leave a lot of electricity left over for the other systems to run properly. Yamaha R6s, certain years, I can't remember, they had little intake tracks that go out and in. They had electronic fuel injection, of course, bristling with sensors, and then a 32-bit ECU, of course, on top of it, and all these little things, a dinky little battery. And if that battery wasn't just perfect, it wouldn't even idle right. So, these things have to be perfect, man. But, a lot of people overlook them. We live up in a northern climate. These sit dormant for a while. You can put the little trickle chargers on there, and that's cool. That helps a bit. But the main reason why the batteries are so crap is a lot of them are made in China. Now, particularly the off-brand batteries, and the quality of lead is fairly questionable. I think it sulfates a lot quicker, because the lead is mixed in with lawn chairs and toasters and recycled this and that, and it just becomes polluted and therefore sulfates quicker. The surface area deteriorates the contact where the sulfuric acid meets, and you get a degraded battery, of course, right out of the box. I've seen batteries garbage right out of the box on these off-brand batteries multiple times. Shocking percentages of returns to the store on dead batteries, to the point where I know a lot of these battery outfits, they're not even taking them back anymore. They say they take them back, but when you try to take them back, they're all full of reasons why they can't take it back. The reason I was making this video is this guy came in, he was getting nothing out of the battery. You press a button, nothing happens, it doesn't even click, it's going off and on, and I think it was boosted, and the solenoid went on it, the connectors went on it, of course. So the solenoid was one issue, the connectors were another issue. Bad grounds, poor battery, and most of the Japanese manufacturers started changing the wiring to save weight, and so around that vintage, 96, 7, 8, 9, around 2000, they shed off like incredible amounts, like 30 to 60 pounds off the Gixxer series, something like that. But it was incredible. One of the ways he done that, of course, was he made all the wiring much thinner. So if you've never had the skin off your beloved steed, your race bike, let me enlighten you by the gauge of wires that they use. You'll notice the wiring. One of the things they do is they use these spider grounds, and they're very problematic. They flake out, especially under load. If you've got a charger on here. But look at the thin gauge wires on there. And then you can see even on the solenoid, they're pretty thin. Everything's thin, thin, thin. Then when you work your way up to under here, this stuff starts getting ridiculously thin. This is to the injectors. And look at this thing. Look at how thin that is. And so everything's like that. You see all the wires on the ECU going down here. Everything's just so marginal. And so when you put a high amp charger on this thing, it just wreaks havoc on everything. So there was those little spider grounds I showed you where they're all clumped together. Absolutely horrible. You should probably cut them off and solder them all together. I've had bikes in where the only problem was those spider grounds. They had melted, and they put them underneath the harness too. So you got to cut the harness open and find them. They're not really listed on the schematic. So you kind of got to massage the harness along and feel your way along and see where they are. But they'll melt, and then they'll offer a poor ground, and then you get all kinds of weird things going on. Because it'll start feeding back through different circuits, to find that ground. And you'll have bikes like they'll rev up to 3,000 and then go back down to 0, and then 3,000, 0, and they'll do that all day long because the computer's going crazy trying to find a ground, and it's backfeeding through different circuits, which it's not meant to do because the ground that it's supposed to be grounded to is no longer connected. So that's real common on not just bikes but modern automotive stuff, especially if you're driving your car in salt, like the potash and the salt they put on the roads to melt the snow in the northern climates. A lot of these cars have grounds on the frame underneath. It is the equivalent to driving your car on the beach every day for 6 months out of the year. It is exactly like that. They put so much salt on the road. It's actually eating the rebar in the bridges. Imagine if it's eating the rebar in the bridges and the concrete, what it's doing to your automobile. So all these grounds are very susceptible, and you get a lot of glitchy electronic problems going on with cars, the dashboards lighting up, and the bikes. So these little spider grounds you find on the bikes, there was a certain year, second generation FGR 1300, and they were lighting up. Actually, they were catching on fire. It was a warranty recall at the dealer, and they were bringing these FGR 1300s back in, and to rectify those spider ground issues. They were having a hell of a time with them. So bad grounds. So just to give you insight as to how fragile these bikes are in terms of the electronics and the electrical system, they're not robust like the old bikes where everything was thick gauge wire. So when you put a charger on this thing, man, just use the trickle charger, or just buy a new battery. If your battery's done, just buy a new battery. That's the best policy. A brand new, good quality battery that is for the bike and for the amperage that the system requires. So I hope that helps and gives some insight as to why these batteries are so important as you march forward into 2024. These bikes are incredibly techy. So, and like I had a ZR 900 in Kawasaki, and it had connectivity to your phone. I don't know what you do with this. What do you do with your phone and the connectivity? I have no idea, but it had a display screen and all the regular nonsense. So yeah, man, get a battery if you need a battery. you later.